Hi everybody. So this morning we're talking with Karen White from the Ontological Coaching Institute. Morning, Karen.
Hi, Mariana. Thank you for the time.
And thank you for your patience waiting with me. I had one of those classic mornings where my alarm clock didn't go off. And so poor Karen was there in Zoom on her own. Anyway, I'm here now, looking a bit puffy and tired. But thank you, Karen, for your patience.
A great pleasure.
Karen, you're joining us today to talk about the program that you've got. I know you've got one coming up in Basel, and we will put the link in below about it. But I understand from a good friend who's in this group that your program is incredibly transformational. So I'd love to hear more about it, and I'm sure everyone else in the group would. And perhaps you could start off by telling us what ontological coaching is.
Absolutely. So ontology, let's start with the word ontology.
Yes, thanks.
If you go to a dictionary and you have a look at what it says, ontology means the study of being or the study of the nature of human existence. So what is it to be human with everything that goes with it, our sense of purpose, our meaning? And really ontological coaching is around coaching to someone's way of being, who they are and how they are in the world, because that informs the actions that they can take, the results that they get or don't get, and ultimately their quality of existence. So everyone wants a good quality of existence, but in a way we're not taught how to achieve that in life. We're taught to seek results, we're taught to get good grades, and then everything else will flow. And if you think about the mad world that we're living in nowadays, that's not happening. So the course is, I think, transformational. And we have a 3-day course, which is called Ontological Coaching and Leadership in Action. So it's very applicable to leaders as well as coaches. And then we have a longer program, and it's amazing to see and to witness the shifts that people make, including myself, because I went through the 18-month program before becoming part of before co-leading the course. So let me stop there.
No need to stop there, because I get what you're saying about, moving from being a student onto co-leading, and that shift is transformational itself. So I can understand that it must have really spoken to you. What you're saying really sings to me, because I work with a lot of coaches going for their ICF credentials. And for me, the big shift between just starting out as a coach and really being a masterful coach is going beyond solving the problem in front of you to helping the person in front of you understand themselves better. Yes. So they can do their own work. So you're going from the what to the who. It's not all about ticking boxes and, this is the issue, how do we get the goal, or where are we going to move forward? It's really understanding what makes that person think and behave. I think the ICF talks about it in terms of creating and thinking. And anyway.
Yes.
I understand the essence now of ontological coaching, but I'm really curious about how you teach it. Have you got any kind of exercises that you might share?
Very much so. And I think let's start off with that, because that is at the heart of ontological coaching. It's very practical. So what I'm going to ask, I'm not sure if you have a pen and paper handy.
I do.
Fantastic. I also have a pen and paper handy, and I'm going to invite anyone who's watching this to also get a pen and paper handy. So to hit pause.
Okay.
And
I won't. I'll just stay live with you.
Exactly. We don't have to, but for anyone who's watching this, it would be great if you hit pause, get a pen and paper. And then what I'm going to invite us both to do is right now to take a moment and think about what we are aware of in the present moment in relation to any thoughts, any emotions or moods that you're aware of, and any physiology, body sensations. And to take 30 seconds to 45 seconds, and if we can even hit pause here and write down. So thoughts, emotions, and body sensations in the moment.
And I will hit pause just for 30 seconds while I do this.
Great.
So I've just resumed recording there, Karen.
Lovely. I'm very interested to hear from you what happened for you in the process of taking just that 30 to 45 seconds?
It was interesting because that's a very short snippet of time, but it did allow me to kind of slow down and take a breath and notice. And what I noticed was that there's a bit of I was a bit kind of, whoa, gosh, I had a really deep sleep last night. So there's a bit of kind of relaxation. But then there is a bit in my head, there's an irritation because I can hear I live in the middle of nowhere. And yet there's an awful lot of noise outside today because there's building work going on at the house next door. So there's people going past, and I'm kind of slightly anxious because I'm imagining someone knocking on the door and saying, can we use your power source, or something like that. So there's a bit of distraction, and yet in my head, and yet my body is really deep, really deeply kind of only just waking up from this deep sleep that I had.
What difference does it make knowing that?
It's something about it. It's okay. That's just how it is. And even that conversation we had before I hit record, where I said, a previous person would have gone, oh, a work thing came up and that's why I was late this morning. It's even like, well, if someone does knock on the door, it's just someone's knocked on the door. It's not the end of the world, is it? That's kind of what happens.
Yeah.
So what difference does it make? I guess it's just enabling me to be more in tune, more aware of my response to things.
Yeah. Well, I did the same, by the way. So I also did the writing because I find it an incredibly useful exercise. And what I realized is, being on the Zoom call, I'm a little bit nervous. So sort of talking about moods and emotions, I noticed that there was a little bit of tension in my shoulders. And at the same time, I felt very comfortable given our previous conversation, and also realizing that I can simply observe this and not be run by it.
Yeah.
And that's in a nutshell what we're interested in up to in ontological coaching. So we're interested in helping people be able to observe themselves and to be able to observe themselves differently, because we can't change what we don't notice.
I love that.
And simply by observing, automatically what happens is new choices open up for us. We can start to say, hang on a second, I can keep going in this automatic way, or I can take a moment, pause, observe, and then engage. And there was actually a whole thing around rugby about pause and engage, and it's that sort of thing. And shall I keep going and share a little bit about the model?
Yeah, do share a little bit. I'm noticing something as well. I'm noticing there's our internet is slightly going a bit, but we can. It's not getting in the way of what's going on. So,
okay. Well, if it does in any way, just pop your hand up and I'll pause again.
share a little bit about the model, and then I'm interested in noticing how. Yes, no, you go ahead, and then because I'm getting questions, I'll make a note so it doesn't get in the way of my thinking.
Okay. So one of the things we're interested, as I said a little bit earlier, is what's happening in someone's way of being. So, because if you think about it, our communication and behavior comes from our way of being, who and how we are in the world. And very often we're not aware of that. So often when I'm working with clients, I'll say, so way of being can sound a little bit esoteric, and it's actually very practical. We live simultaneously in 3 areas, and it's an inescapable part of being human. So we live in language, and we're born into language. We also, in our emotions and moods are with us all the time, as much as we sometimes like to believe that they're not. And our body, we take action from our body, and it's not just our head, as much as we are socialized to think about just bring your brain to work or just bring your brain to school. But in order for change to happen, it happens through our entire nervous system. So paying attention to the whole body makes absolute sense. And our body informs how we perceive the world, so how the world shows up for us. And so what we do is we break down those 3 areas, and we look at language in detail. And instead of thinking of language as a noun, it's actually a verb. We are languaging beings. So just the way that we organize to connect through Sharon, then the interruption to us getting together at 10 o'clock and happening a little bit later, all of that happened through language. And it was iterative language. So we were languaging all the time. So by being able to tune into our language, we can start to use it more effectively. It's our fundamental toolkit, if you like. And there are 3 areas in particular. So our listening, because we speak from our listening. And then how we use language, basic patterns of speech that we cannot not use. And I can share the details of that if you like, or we might not have enough time. So, and then we are born into stories. You live in Ireland, I live in South Africa, and there's a certain culture that goes with that and certain beliefs. So, yeah, let me start.
It's just made me think of something. So I'm English, but I live in Ireland. And there are different ways of saying things in Ireland, and there's a whole different language in Ireland. You know, there's the Irish language is different. My daughter's learning Irish. She's not a first language Irish speaker, but there's different phraseology. So in English, you would say I'm sad. In Irish, the direct translation was I have sadness with me, and I like that because there's a subtle difference. It's about carrying stuff. It's not about, it doesn't define you.
Yes.
So I'm very fascinated by the nuances of language.
Well, I love what you've said because it's a beautiful example of language generates reality for us. And the way that we use language, so the difference between I'm sad and was it I have sadness?
I think it's I have sadness with me, or there is sadness beside me, or some. I'll email you the exact phrasing, but it's that emotion isn't part of you. It's just, with you.
And that generates a very different reality.
Absolutely.
So, and we've been taught to think about language implicitly, not explicitly, as describing reality. So reality is out there, reality is out there, and we use language to describe it. Whereas in fact, we bring forth reality based on the language that we use and our understanding of it.
And how do we bring it forth? Because, sorry.
What you've just shared is a beautiful example of that. I'm sad is the sadness lives in me.
Yeah, and it's part of me, and it's out of my control in a way. But yeah, I can choose if I take it on or if I don't. If it's separate, yeah.
Yes.
And I suppose there's all the cultural constructions around language as well as the actual dialect or language itself. There's a sort of cultural expectation about what you say and what you don't say as well. It's sort of embedded into us.
Very much so. And then there's also stories that we're born into. So in South Africa, there are many different cultures, and based on that culture and the story and the history, there's a whole lot of meaning that's just part of that. And we tend to live it as if it's true and the truth. And through understanding how we construct reality through language, we can inquire into that. So,
yeah, I'm noticing with my father's in his 80s, and he's very much a sort of English older gentleman that's believes, that men don't show emotion and all of that stuff. And actually, the knock-on implications of me and my brothers now, my brothers are now late 50s. And they're just at the point of their lives where they're saying, actually, that's not true. It's a kind of shift, but it's taken that long, to have that sort of, I don't know. Yeah, the inconsistencies in the meaning and the way people are brought up and things like that. It takes a while for it to be challenged, doesn't it? And takes a while to shift, which I guess brings us on to why coaching around it is important, because coaching can help people spot these inconsistencies and kind of challenge them. And how do you see coaching shifting all of this?
I think, the strap line of ontological coaching is becoming a different observer.
Oh, wow.
Yes. And I think what you're sharing, one of the things we're interested, part of our way of being is we have perceptions and attitudes that we've just taken on. And through coaching, there's the opportunity to help people firstly observe those perceptions and attitudes, see what's useful in them, because I think it's not about throwing everything out, and deciding what to keep and what not to keep. So your brothers are a great example in terms of saying, well, maybe if I had a bigger emotional range, it would improve the quality of my life. It would improve the quality of my relationships.
No, absolutely.
Yeah.
I was going to say, Karen, I'm going to drop the details of the program in the course, but would you be willing to, if people have specific questions, would you be willing to just join the thread and answer them if there are any questions that come up on Facebook? Or I can certainly let you know.
Yes, with pleasure. I'll join, and I'd love to be in conversation with whoever would like to speak more about it. I am aware we wanted to keep the recording really tight. I would like to, could I mention moods and emotions very briefly? Okay. We take action based on our moods and emotions. And we are also, again, not often aware of it. And emotions are much more available to us. So in the moment something happens, you've got a good friend there and you share a laugh and your emotion shifts and it's positive. So that's happening throughout our day. We also have what we call moods, and they are often more transparent. They sit in the background, and we can have been born into them. We could have fallen into moods. And when things happen, our moods, what I say sometimes, is come out to play. So they then announce themselves. So for example, quick example, I had a client and she lived very much from one of the moods we explored, the mood of resentment or being permanently pissed off.
I know some of those people.
Been there myself sometimes. Anyway, and I'll never forget when I said to her, I offered it to her as a possibility and interpretation that she might be in a mood of resentment. She was like, I'm not in a mood of resentment. It was actually, we had a good laugh about it afterwards, because when she went away and thought about it, she said, not only am I in a mood of resentment in relation to the situation, but in all aspects of my life. So once we can start to understand our moods don't have to hold sway over us. And so helping people understand that and explore them is incredibly liberating and empowering. And our moods take care of us, but sometimes not in the best possible way. So we have 6 basic moods that we focus on and help people tune into. They're not the only moods in the world, not by a long stretch, but they seem to be very commonplace in our world today. So, and there's a very strong link to physiology. So our moods live in our body, and our molecules there's a woman, Candace Pert, who's wrote, you know her.
Yeah.
Yeah, molecules of emotion. So they're hormones and they're in our nervous system. So being able to shift our mood and our nervous system, our posture, muscle tension, informs the way we perceive. So you can start to see the relationship between all 3.
Oh, I could go on and on and on, because it's triggering loads of thoughts about, the whole, the choice to turn on and off genes and all of that long term, all of this can have an impact on.
Yes.
Yeah. And that whole thing about shifting your body as well, and, having an impact on your brain and, literally physically changing how you respond to things and your emotion as well. Oh, it's fascinating stuff, Karen.
Yeah.
Karen, thank you so much for your time today. I'm going to put this recording up, and then hopefully you'll have time to answer any questions that come on, but I think it might be that we might need to talk again at some point.
I would absolutely love that, and I very much appreciated the time. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to hit stop now, so thank you.
Okay.